You step out onto your balcony on a freezing winter morning, snow swirling around you like it's personally out to bury every last hope you had for fresh food from your own hands. The wind cuts right through your jacket as you look at those empty garden beds below, now just frozen lumps under a blanket of white, and your heart sinks because you know what's coming. Another season of watching your veggies die off one by one, leaving you stuck buying those sad, overpriced bags of greens at the store that taste like they've been sitting in a warehouse for months. You didn't fail at this, friend. The common way of gardening failed you, the one that pretends winter is some unbeatable wall you just have to accept. But what if I told you there's a ridiculously simple fix that changes everything? Something so cheap and straightforward it almost feels like forgotten knowledge they tried to bury because it works too well and costs way too little to keep the big seed companies and greenhouse sellers happy. For only $37, you can build a vertical garden tower right there on your tiny balcony or patio that keeps producing fresh kale, spinach, lettuce, and herbs all year round, even when it's snowing outside and the temperatures drop way below freezing. You're probably standing there right now thinking, no way. How can something that simple fight off the cold like that when every other garden around you shuts down by November? Well, you're about to see exactly how, because I'm walking you through the whole journey I took myself last fall when the leaves were dropping and I felt that same frustration you're feeling right now, staring at my empty pots and wondering if I'd ever crunch into homegrown salad again before spring rolled around. It starts with you heading to the hardware store on a crisp afternoon, the kind where your breath puffs out in little clouds, and you grab just a handful of everyday items that feel solid and real in your cart, instead of some fancy gadget they try to sell you for hundreds. You pick up one 10-foot 4-inch PVC pipe for about $12, the kind that's lightweight but tough enough to stand up to wind and snow without complaining. And you can already picture it turning into your own little tower of green abundance. Then you add 2 PVC end caps for $3 total, smooth white pieces that will seal the bottom perfectly so not a drop of precious soil or water escapes. A pack of 90-degree elbows and connectors runs you $4, those clever little joints that snap together like puzzle pieces and let you stack everything into a strong vertical column that saves space and holds heat better than flat ground ever could. 23-inch net pots cost $6, perfect little baskets that let roots breathe and drain just right. And you toss in one big bag of potting mix for $8, enough to fill the whole tower with rich, loose soil that feels alive under your fingers. A cheap plastic saucer or tray for the bottom is only $2 to catch any overflow, and a few zip ties, drill bits, and screws rounded out at $2 more, bringing your total to exactly $37. You didn't need to hunt for rare parts or wait for shipping from some online giant. You just walked out of the store with everything in one bag, feeling that quiet excitement because you know this is the real deal. The kind of practical hack our grandparents used before everything got complicated and expensive on purpose. Back home on your balcony, you lay everything out on an old tarp, the cold air nipping at your ears, but your hands warm with purpose as you measure and mark the pipe. You cut that 10-foot length into 5 2-foot sections using a simple handsaw, each piece falling clean with a satisfying thunk. And you can feel how sturdy they are, ready to become the backbone of your year-round garden. With a drill in hand, you start making holes, spacing them evenly around each section like little windows for your future plants to peek out and grow strong. 4 or 5 per piece, so the whole tower will be bursting with life from top to bottom. The bit bites into the PVC with a quick whir, and you smile because this is so straightforward. No fancy tools, just you and a bit of elbow grease, turning ordinary pipe into something magical. You fit the end cap onto the bottom section nice and snug, then set it onto that plastic saucer so any extra water drains away clean without making a mess on your patio. Next, you connect the sections with those elbows and connectors, twisting them tight until the whole thing stands tall and straight, like a sentinel against the winter wind. about 6 or 7 feet high and taking up almost no floor space at all. You zip tie it securely to your balcony railing so it won't budge even in the strongest storm. And already you can picture the snow piling up around the base while the top stays green and giving. Now comes the part where you pour in that potting mix, rich and dark, filling each section layer by layer so the soil settles just right around the holes you drilled. You press those net pots into place one by one, feeling the cool plastic give a little as they lock in, each one a tiny home, ready for a seedling to stretch its roots deep and strong. You didn't rush any of this. You took your time, enjoying the simple rhythm of building something with your own two hands that the big gardening companies would rather you never discovered, because it doesn't need their overpriced kits or electricity-hungry lights. For planting, you choose those tough, cold-loving plants that laugh at frost, like kale with its curly leaves that stay sweet even after a freeze, spinach that pops up fast and keeps coming back, crisp lettuce varieties that crunch better than anything from the store, Swiss chard with its colorful stems that brighten up even the grayest day, and hardy herbs like rosemary and thyme whose scents fill the air when you brush past them. You start seeds indoors a few weeks ahead, or grab healthy little transplants from the nursery, gently tucking each one into its net pot with a bit of extra soil pressed around the base so it feels secure against the cold winds. You water it in softly at first, just enough to settle everything without soaking, and already you can see tiny green shoots peeking out like they're saying thank you for giving them this protected vertical home where heat rises naturally from the bottom up. In the dead of winter, you add a simple plastic sheet or mini hoop cover over the top for just $5 extra, draping it loosely like a cozy blanket that traps warmth without smothering the plants, turning your balcony into a little protected pocket of summer even when snow piles up 3 feet deep outside. You step back and look at what you built, this tall green tower standing proud against the white landscape, and you feel that rush of freedom, because you know normal gardens stop producing in November, but yours is just getting started. You didn't spend a fortune on some high-tech system they try to sell you online with pumps and timers and monthly subscriptions. You used basic stuff anyone can find, the kind of forgotten backyard wisdom that works because nature loves simplicity, and you finally tapped into it. Every time you walk past it on those cold mornings, you reach out and touch a leaf, feeling the living green under your fingers while the rest of the world stays brown and bare. And that's when you realize you're not at the mercy of the seasons anymore. You're the one in control now, harvesting fresh greens whenever you want, right there on your own balcony, no matter how hard the wind howls or how deep the snow gets. You keep an eye on the moisture, giving it a drink only 2 or 3 times a week, because the vertical design lets water trickle down naturally through all the layers, like a slow, gentle rain that never wastes a drop. You mix up some organic fertilizer in a watering can, the kind you make from kitchen scraps or buy cheap at the garden center, and you feed the tower lightly so those roots stay happy and the leaves grow thick and nutrient-packed. You harvest by snipping outer leaves here and there, never taking too much at once, and you watch, amazed, as the plants keep pushing out new growth week after week, like they refuse to quit even when the calendar says it's impossible. 3 common mistakes new folks make you avoid from the start, like packing the soil too tight, which stops air from reaching the roots, or forgetting to secure the tower against gusts so it tips in a storm, or skipping that bottom tray and ending up with a soggy mess on your patio. You catch those early, tweak them quick, and suddenly everything thrives like it was meant to be this easy all along. That's how you turn a $37 build into a steady supply of fresh food that feeds your whole family month after month, proving once and for all that you don't need a big yard or expensive gear to eat well through the coldest months. You feel that deep satisfaction every time you step inside with a handful of just picked greens, knowing the store prices and winter shortages can't touch you anymore because you took back control the old-fashioned way. And the best part, is you can do this too, right where you are. Because this isn't some complicated science project. It's simple, practical, and built for real life in cold climates just like yours. You're already halfway there just by watching, and soon you'll have your own tower standing tall against the snow, green and giving when everything else is sleeping under ice. That's the power of this forgotten vertical trick, the one that's been waiting for you to rediscover it and bring it back to life on your own balcony. You didn't need permission or a big budget. You just needed to see it done once, and now you know exactly how it all comes together, so you can start growing your own way out of winter hunger forever. You walk out onto that same balcony a few weeks later, boots crunching through fresh snow, and there it stands, your tower, like a green lighthouse in the middle of the whiteout. You lift the simple plastic cover with hands that are already tingling from the cold, and there they are, those deep green leaves of kale and spinach looking back at you, bright and alive, while everything else in the neighborhood is frozen solid and silent. You reach out your fingers, brush the frosty edges, and you snip a big handful, feeling that crisp snap as the stems give way and the fresh scent hits you right in the face, like summer decided to show up anyway. You didn't fail the seasons. The old ground-level garden failed you because it couldn't fight the freeze the way this vertical tower does with its stacked design that traps rising warmth and protects every root from the worst of the wind. You bring those leaves inside, rinse them under cold water, and the moment you bite into that first raw kale leaf, you taste the difference. Sweet, crunchy, and packed with life, instead of the bland stuff from the store that costs you $8 a pound and tastes like it traveled halfway around the world. You're harvesting 4 to 6 pounds of fresh greens every single month from this one tower, even in February, when the thermometer reads 10 below and your neighbors are still staring at empty raised beds covered in snow. You feel that surge of pure freedom because the grocery bills drop, the quality skyrockets, and you're no longer at the mercy of whatever the big food companies decide to ship your way this week. You didn't spend hundreds on some fancy heated greenhouse or electric grow lights that suck power and break down the first hard freeze. You used $37.30 of your time with ordinary PVC from the hardware store, the kind of forgotten backyard trick they don't advertise because it works too well and leaves them with nothing to sell you next year. You keep the maintenance stupid simple just like the whole build was. You check the soil with one finger every couple of days and water only 2 or 3 times a week, letting it trickle down naturally through all 5 levels like a slow, gentle rain that never wastes a drop and never leaves the bottom soggy. You mix up a weak organic fertilizer from kitchen scraps or a cheap bottle from the garden center and pour it in once a week, watching those leaves thicken up and the colors deepen right before your eyes. You harvest smart too, always taking the outer leaves first, so the center keeps pushing out new growth like the plants refuse to quit, no matter how hard the wind howls outside. You avoid the 3 rookie mistakes that trip everyone up at first, like packing the soil too tight, which suffocates the roots, or skipping the zip ties so a gust tips your tower, or forgetting the bottom saucer and ending up with a slippery mess on your patio. You catch those early, tweak them quick, and suddenly everything explodes with life, proving once again that this is the real deal, the practical, no electricity solution that fits your cold climate balcony like it was made for it. You step back on those bitter mornings, coffee steaming in your hand, and you just watch your tower standing proud against the snow, the leaves still vibrant and giving, while the rest of the world stays brown and bare. You feel that deep satisfaction in your chest because you took back control, the old-fashioned way, with your own hands and a few cheap pipes, and now your family is eating better than they ever did when you relied on the store. You're saving hundreds every winter, not just on greens, but on the peace of mind that comes from knowing you can grow no matter what the forecast says. You didn't need a big yard or a fancy setup or permission from anyone. You just needed to see it done once, and now you're living it every single day, right there on your tiny patio, while the snow keeps falling and your tower keeps producing like it's the middle of July. Imagine pulling fresh Swiss chard and rosemary straight into your soup on the coldest night of the year, or tossing homegrown spinach into your kids' lunchboxes, knowing it grew while the wind was trying to tear everything else down. You can taste that freedom already, can't you? That quiet pride when friends come over and ask how the heck you're still eating salad in the dead of winter, and you just smile and point to your $37 tower standing there green and unstoppable. This is the kind of self-sufficiency they tried to bury under layers of expensive gadgets and complicated systems, because the simple truth works too well and costs way too little. You're already halfway to your own year-round harvest just by watching this, and soon you'll have your tower up and running, feeding your family through every freeze and every storm. Comment below right now which vegetable you're planting first: kale, spinach, or maybe those hardy herbs, because I read every single one and I love hearing your plans. If this helped you even a little, smash that like button and subscribe, because there's so much more coming your way. Next video drops soon, and it's how I built a $19 chicken coop that keeps my birds warm and laying all winter with zero electricity, just like this tower keeps my garden alive. You've got this, friend. Head to the hardware store, grab those few pieces, and build your own escape from winter hunger, because the old ways still work, and they're waiting for you to bring them back to life on your own balcony. You're not just growing food anymore, you're growing freedom, one green leaf at a time. And it feels exactly as good as it sounds.